Hey everybody, it's Shoeless Rob here with the Frostin' the Flurry-ous number 327 rapid transmission build for Gemma Frostfire. It's a PvE and works on bosses as well as mobs, and we're going to get started with some skills and some gameplay. And if you'd like a more detailed breakdown, stick around. We'll be going into the talents and everything else as well. So, we're going to get into the skills first. And the main skill that we're going to be using is going to be Frigid Transmission. Everything is based off of that. So it does slow our enemies, which is nice, but it's not the main point. It also has a chance to freeze enemies, which is very good because every time it freezes an enemy, it refreshes the cooldown on Frigid Transmission. So it just, poof, the cooldown goes away, you get to cast it immediately again. And that's what we're going to use to create the foundation of the build. We've got Critical Strike on there, which is going to give us, of course, some extra damage. Who doesn't like critical strikes? We'll also see that's important later. We've got some added cold damage to boost up and beef up the damage. We've got a freeze chance on there as well, which is going to give us more of a chance to freeze, more of a chance to refresh that cooldown, and get us back on track to using it again and bouncing around the map like a little frozen flea. And lastly, we want to do as much damage as possible, and we're going to build this a lot around crits. So we're also going to throw in there critical strike damage and get that critical strike damage boosted up as high as we can as well. Now, the next skill that is important, to note, we have two of these, exactly the same. So they're built exactly the same. You're going to be able to use them interchangeably. That way, just in case you don't get a freeze off, you've got your second one available for you. A freeze will refresh them both. Another key component is going to be our little ice sentry here. And that is going to allow us to freeze the enemy very, very reliably because it has a 100% frostbite chance. And so with that 100% frostbite chance, you're going to pop this down, and the little beam is going to be between you and the enemy. It's going to freeze them. It also gives you a buff to your cold damage. So it's also going to be buffing your cold damage just like a lot of other buffs do as well. But we don't want just one of them. We want as much as we can out of this skill. And use it as thoroughly as we can. So what we have here is a multifaceted guard, and that's going to allow us to get +2 minions summoned, or rather sentries summoned, and so we can have 4 out total. Our sentry ability here as well is going to give us 2 at a time, so that way we don't waste all of our time casting our sentries. We just get to cast 2 of them and turn around and cast another 2, and then cast them in different places because we want to be able to have them in between the enemy and us. And lastly, if you have the energy for it, you can throw on some added cold damage. It does do some pretty decent damage when you've got 4 of them out there. We've also got our Ice Lance, which is going to be for single targets, such as bosses or the heavy-duty elite creatures that stick around and give you trouble. So we want to use that for the tough ones, the ones that we want single shots on. And you can also use this to refresh your freeze because it bounces 3 times. We're going to leave it in single shot mode. So you can use this to refresh your freeze, refresh your duration. If you run out of Frigid Transmission, hop onto Ice Lance and you'll still be doing major damage. We've got added cold damage, obvious. We've got freeze chance, more freeze chance, obvious. And that's going to refresh our cooldowns. We've got critical strike damage so that we can get more critical strikes. And the next one is kind of a preference thing. It's up to you. You can do rapid projectiles if you want the projectiles to be faster, or you can go to your critical chance and up the chances of getting a critical as well. So that'll beef up the damage on it a little bit more. Lastly, if you have the energy for it, not really necessary, but you can throw on some elemental fusion. Now, we also have here our forced start, which is very important to this build. We want to be very tanky because we're right in the middle of the action all the time. So anytime that we pause our frigid transmission and we don't get it off right away, you're going to get hit. So this is going to allow you to start your energy shield anytime you want, even before it's out. Defense layers is going to give you some layers of buffing defense while it's recharging your shield. So that's good. Get that little physical boost in there, protect your life since it's going to be lower. And the same thing with Iron Fortification is going to give us some extra beefiness as well. I don't have the energy for it right now, but you can see they're next on my list. So now you can also throw in there a triggered on major damage forced start as well. It won't have the buffs on it, but hey, just in case you can't get to that button fast enough, you've got this available to you to go ahead and just kind of that oh no panic button, will be pushed for you. We've got our Energy Fortress, which is going to give us a lot of energy shield. And lastly, our Elemental Buff, which is going to give us a lot of Elemental Buff, obvious. Now that is going to end up with all pretty much of our skills. That's everything we'll be using. And you're going to eat up a lot of mana with those, you're going to notice. So if we get into the game here, you can see there's very little mana. So we're going to be going into some gear and some other things that will be helping out our mana. But what we do is we lay down a forward turret, lay down a forward sentry, and try to keep one on both sides of you so that as you bounce around with your rapid transmission, your frigid transmission, you're always having that in between you and the enemy, freezing them. So we'll throw out an overload diamond, and you can see by the time they're spawning, they're pretty much dead. Clean up with our ice lance and move right on. So we're going to pretty much just repeat this process through the whole map. We're going to be spamming out the turrets to process the freezes. We're going to be spamming out frigid transmission to bounce around and just destroy everything. And we're going to follow up with some ice lances to either refresh our freeze or to clean up the individual elites. Not much to playing it, but it is a lot of fun bouncing around the map the way that you do and just destroying everything. You can see we're just pretty much walking through the map. Nothing's giving us trouble. I won't bore you with going through the whole level, so we will do a little transition here, and we will head straight to the boss now. So here we arrive at the boss, and we find that we're going to use pretty much the same method, but we're going to use a lot more ice lance and a lot less frigid transmission because we can't freeze bosses. So we're going to set up our turrets. We're going to try and keep them on the other side of him. And then blink a couple of times. You can see it takes off a pretty big chunk when you've got those boosts on from your turrets. So you can use your frigid transmission blinks as well. And you can also just use your ice lance to knock off some pretty good damage as well while you're being buffed. So you just want to make sure you stay in that buff radius and keep them on the other side. And you can see you just chew through bosses like nobody's business. So now we've got the gameplay out of the way. That's how you do it. That's pretty much it for most people. It's enough to get you started. If you'd like to stick around for a little bit more detailed information, we're going to get into talents, packs, equipment, pretty much everything. So we'll start with our talent trees here. And we'll go ahead and zip on over to our first talent tree, which is of course the Goddess of Knowledge. And this tree is going to be straight up damage. We've got spell damage. We've got elemental damage, cold damage. We've got the one outlier here is going to be our mana, because we're going to need lots of mana in order to pull this off. You saw how much gets eaten up by our passives and how much we're going to be spamming it. So then we head back to more damage and more damage. And we end the tree with the final skill on more damage of +1 skill level. So all of our skills are going to be like they're 1 level higher. Hey, for 1 point, you can't beat that. Now, we're going to go with straight up raw damage here on this one. And so we're going to go with the first one. That's a straight up 30% bonus. And we're also going to go with the first one as well here. That's a 45% bonus plus some for intelligence. So that's going to be your special nodes. Now we move on to Magistrate, which has a lot of shield powers. And so we're going to get some spell damage, of course. Can't beat that. And we're also going to get our maximum mana so that we can keep our maximum shield, rather. And then we're going to get our shield speed up so that we can regen our shield as quickly as possible anytime that we need it. And we're going to get some critical strike, some more damage all over the tree, some more mana. And this one's interesting because it allows you a percentage of mana as the last 2 skills on that tree. There's 2 on that one, on the end one. So you can get that, and it also helps your sealed mana. Then we want to move on to some of the shield abilities, which are 150 extra shield and a bunch of speed for your boosting the speed of your shield coming back as well. That way, when you hit your forced start, you get your shield back right away. But you're right in the middle of the action, right? So what are we going to do about being in the middle of the action when you're getting hit and you've got that shield going on and they're interrupting you? We don't want to be interrupted by monsters. So let's add on our special abilities here for the build. And the first one is going to be we're going to double up our speed of our shield recharge with the middle one. So that way it's just double speed. Nice and straightforward. But this one right here is more important and a little bit more in depth. It allows you to regen your shield while you're getting the heck beat out of you. So they can be sitting there wailing on you and you're still regenerating your shield. So for start, no problem. Mobs around you, no problem. So now we go on to Spirit Caller, also in the Goddess of Knowledge tree. And we're going to stick around mostly the bottom here because the top deals a lot with channeled skills. So we're going to go ahead and get some elemental damage. We're going to go ahead and get some crit. We're going to go ahead and get some piercing. We're going to get some area of effect because we're using AoE on everything. So area of effect is not going to hurt anybody. Lastly, we're going to get some, not lastly, but intermediately, we're going to get some spell damage here. And you don't need to finish out the 4th one on this one because it deals with channeled skills. So we don't really care about that 4th one on there. And then we're going to get some more damage. And a great thing about this tree is it's kind of multi-purpose. So we're going to be able to get also at the end here a specific cold damage. We're going to get a trifecta of energy added on first off. So that's great. Gemma can convert fire damage to ice damage boosts. And then you get +1 frost skills. +1 level to all your frost skills, which of course we're using all frost skills. So everything gets another level boost as well. So that's pretty much it for talents. They're pretty straightforward. I'm celebrating buying my last talent point here. So we're going to go ahead and put that last one into our piercing and unlock our 30. That's the last one. You should have 20, 30, 30 now. So on this one, we're going to go ahead and go with the third one, and that's super important because critical now ignores elemental resistance. So you think you've got elemental resistance, boss? No, you don't, because we added all that critical damage and all that critical chance, so everything's critting like crazy. And you're ignoring all the elemental resistances, just cutting through them like butter. Now here on this one, we want to go ahead and just go with the kind of the default option, the middle one. The other two don't really help us out at all. They're not built for this build, so it's not the greatest in the world, but hey, it's what we're going to go with. Now we want to get into a little bit of equipment. And you don't need uber equipment for this build. You know, I didn't build this to be a level 90, end-all, be-all, have to grind forever to do this kind of build. I wanted it to be something that everybody can attain with some, you know, semi-casual to hardcore playing. So you're going to notice as I go over my gear here, a lot of the same things. Number one, they're going to have high energy. They're going to have very, very high energy so that you can get all those add-ons to all those spells. They're going to have mana on them. They're going to have intelligence, and they're going to have your energy shield boost. You can see I'm at 2,200 energy shield. So that's a pretty big, beefy energy shield that you have. So you want everything to be based around mana, spell damage, spell casting speed, elemental damage. You know, anything you can do to stack damage is great. Everything, though, should have the energy shield boost and as much mana regen and mana as you can. So you're going to see that happen over and over again throughout these items. And this is just what I came up with. This is just what I found along the way. I didn't sit there and farm anything over and over and over again. I did a little crafting. I did a little corroding. You know, it's always fun to roll the dice. But you'll see that it's not perfect gear, but it works. As long as you can get those spell bonuses, those mana bonuses, and the energy shield bonuses on there, you should be good. So you can just kind of take a look over my equipment there. Now I prefer the beefiness of a shield and a wand. I'll sacrifice a little damage for it. It's not really a ton of damage you sacrifice, but you get a lot of survivability. So that's just me. But you can add in that second wand and get some extra effects. Number one, that's nice to have. You can get them on your shield, but you get better ones on a weapon. So we can throw in this other wand here as well, and you're going to notice that you get up another good chunk of damage, and that would have helped us out. But this build does a lot of damage anyway. So next we're going to get into our pacts, and we're going to look over some of the creature features. They gave us 3,000 crystals. Buy those insight crystals. Spend them on pets. Don't spend them on cosmetics because you're going to get a lot more utility. So on this first tree up at the top right is the damage tree. And so it doesn't matter as much what pet I put on here because I'm going to use mainly damage from this tree. I did buy, there are 2 projectile speed increases that I went ahead and sacrificed on the inner ring to go ahead and get there. But other than that, it's damage. This guy helps me out with drops. Hey, who doesn't like loot? So, you know, we're getting good drops and some rarity on there. This is where I spent all the extra points that I had at the end. But your meat and potatoes are up there on the top too. This is your mana regen. You get 100% mana regen for any pet. Doesn't matter. You switch it back to the regular standard ones, and you get 100% mana regen. This pet came with some elemental damage. I went with the standard physical reduction and movement speed, and the next one I get will be that outer ring node out there to get some extra physical damage reduction. So that's pretty much it. That's what we do as far as the packs go. It should be straightforward. Your hero traits, what you buy with that. You definitely want to flip-flop the ice and fire damage when you get to that choice. And, you know, it's a great build. It speed clears that nether realm, allows you to get that loot. And if you have any questions, feel free to get a hold of me at ShoelessRob, #8331 in Discord, with a capital S and a capital R. And friend me, hit me up, like the video, and peace out. I'll see you guys later.